Yes.
recording.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the February 1st, 2021 meeting of the Greenwood Board of Public Works and Safety to order at 5:30 p.m. Amanda, would you give us the roll call, please?
Mr. Colvin,
Here.
Mr. Rutherford,
Here.
Mr. Hoover.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Minutes of our last meeting of January 18, 2021 have been distributed to members of the board. Have there been any additions, corrections, or deletions from staff? Hearing of none, is there a motion to approve them as presented?
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Mr. Colvin, seconded by Mr. Rutherford. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Motion passes. Mr. Pettit, you're first on our agenda this evening. Good evening.
Good evening. At the last meeting, the board approved the city auction. And I'm just here tonight as legal as prepared, as agreed on the contract and to get the board's approval on the contract with Christie's auction.
This is sort of the standard format that we use for the auction. After looking at it, and it's set up for the mayor's signature. Is there any questions for Todd or anyone else on this matter? Is there a motion to approve?
I'd move for approval with the mayor's signature.
Thank you, Mr.
Second
Rutherford.
that.
Thank you, Mr. Colvin. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
All right.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Is there anyone from the audience who would like to address the board this evening? Well, hearing none, we'll move on to Mr. Hodson, if he's there, with the IDAM compliance plan status update.
All's well with IDAM.
I always like to hear that, Sam. Thank you. And then on to your status of tasks.
First thing I have is a consideration of change order with MCMI. And this came about because we had the opportunity to pave part of a parking lot, and rather than go through an entire new contract process, we just wanted to do it by change order.
Doing this at, Sam?
I'm sorry, what?
Where's, this is over in the park?
Yeah, this is was a DPW project, but there was some adjacent parking lot that needed addressing also. It's not a large amount. It's $9,737.
Questions for Mr. Hodson?
I move for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Colvin. I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Next up is the application for trash collection service license by Ray's Trash Service. Staff has looked over this. It's all in. Everything that needs to be there was submitted.
Questions for Mr. Hudson on this matter? Well,
I'll move.
Go ahead, Mr. Rutherford.
I'll move for approval.
Second that. Further discussion? And that's for all three of our signatures. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
All right.
Aye. Motion passes.
Next up is consideration of an outdoor lighting agreement, and this is for the neighborhood called the Retreat Section 2 with JCREMC.
Remind me, Sam, if you would, where the retreat is at.
I don't know where the retreat is at.
Daniel?
Sure,
Daniel?
sure, yeah, Mr. Hoover, it's on Main Street. This is the far east side of the city, north. I guess at your.
I recall now, yeah.
Okay, yeah, up Combs Road. Yep.
Thanks.
I move for approval.
Thank you, Jeff.
Second.
Mr. Rutherford, second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And I think that kind of leads us into our next item, right, Sam?
Yes, consideration of the outdoor lighting agreements, and you've been submitted with a list of all the agreements.
And this goes back quite a ways. This historically apparently has been just approved through staffing. I think Mr. Hodson's brought a couple of them to us in recent times. And so I think this Amanda and legal department kind of wanted to just get us on the record, make certain that we had had a ratification of these contracts. Is there any question about any of these from either Jeff or Shan?
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yeah.
I noticed that there's a considerable difference in the pricing of each one of these. Is there a reason for that? Does anyone know?
That may be something that Daniel could answer if he was seeing the chart. Let me send it to him real quick.
Or he can get back with this maybe next meeting. It's just something.
It may also be because it's Duke or REMC, or the location.
I just noticed the prices are all over the place on a per monthly basis. And
That is true.
And Amanda, maybe it's a typo, but the first one on the list, Greenwood Station, Section 3, it says $1,035 a month. Is that $10.35 or?
I hope so for 2 lights.
Should be lighting up the city.
Let us hope that that is a typo.
Well, since this is just a ratification anyhow, why don't we table this until our next meeting and maybe we can get some answers to some of those questions.
That's fine. I will make sure that we have them.
Are these for like an entrance light or something?
Street lights.
Or just street
Yeah, I think
lights?
they're through.
So, just street lights?
It would be the streetlights within the sections of the subdivisions, yes, that are listed.
Okay, I know our subdivision doesn't have any, but we've got a street, one out at the entrance, a couple of lights out on our sign and stuff, so. That's a different thing though. Okay, never mind.
So are we in consensus? We can move this to our next meeting for further discussion?
Yes,
Yeah, and I think, in addition to the pricing, one thing I would like to know, and maybe he can shed light on this at the next meeting as well, is are we now speccing LED lights instead of the metal halide or whatever kind they're putting in? Number one, and then would that be cheaper? I've noticed the LED lights are obviously cheaper to maintain and the energy costs are much less than other typical lighting. And then maintenance of those. I notice whenever I drive through the city, there's several lights that are always out. And I don't know who would be responsible for making sure we get those turned back on.
Mr. Coven, Terry McLaughlin, I can answer those 2 questions.
Okay, thanks, Terry.
Yeah, so first off, the Duke is not providing a LED light. We have inquired for the last 2 years about this because other providers are. However, they told us a year ago that they were going to be going to LED lights. And as of the last quarterly meeting that we had 2 weeks ago with them, that is still not moved any more forward than it was 2 years ago. So they can't provide any, they won't. Now, I will say with Johnson County REMC, they do have a LED lighting available in some of theirs, and that's what we try to transition to as far as that. The other aspect is I was a little actually dumbfounded when I first came to the city and realized that the city of Greenwood is the customer, but yet the both REMC nor Duke monitor any of their lights. So we have to go throughout the city. And I can say as well that Linda Gibson did this numerous times since the whole time that I've been with the city. She drives her district and provides it. So we have to provide a list of the poll number and address, so on and so forth. And then we have to actually go online and submit these, which we do. And we get some help from the police department as well. So again, you'd hate to think for the money that we're spending with both these companies that we're the ones that have to go out and find them and then turn them in. And to add to this as well, when there's more than a light issue, and say it's an underground cable or whatever that's feeding that pole, we can report that thing 5 or 6 times before they'll ever tell us that it's not the bulb, that it's on a to be fixed list by either running new wire, underground service to it, or whatever the case is. So very cumbersome for either or in both of these companies to actually be able to provide a good service to the residents of the city with this.
I appreciate that update.
Thanks, Terry. Well, maybe we can get some, Amanda, if you can put this back on the agenda for our next meeting, that'll give us sufficient time to maybe have some further answers to some of these questions.
Yes, and I do have each agreement. I can make these available so you can go and peruse them at your leisure over the next couple weeks. And you can see the locations of where everything's at as well. I
Okay.
can make those available on the SharePoint.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
We'll move on then to Daniel. If Sam, that was all you had, right?
I think we have 2 walk-ons. Amanda, is Greg going to do these, or am I doing those? The Crow and Milliman contracts.
Those are both on the agenda. Greg had additional walk-on that he is going to take care of in
Okay.
his section.
Great, then I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
You too.
Good evening.
All right, well, good evening. I just have one item for you. Yeah, Molly's bringing the screen on. For your consideration, here at the intersection of Alexander and Broadway Streets, we received a citizen comment about a week ago or so, asking or just sort of expressing concerns about the safety at this intersection. It is currently a yield condition intersection, and that's only applies to the westbound traffic on Alexander. Those vehicles would have to yield to other vehicles on Broadway. Broadway does not have Broadway traffic, either from the south or from the north, does not have any yield or stop sign. So we reached out to both the street department and also Greenwood Police if they had any thoughts or input for this intersection, and collectively wanted to make a recommendation to the board to actually change that yield condition to a stop condition. And that would only apply to westbound Alexander Street. There would be no changes to or no additions of signage on either leg of Broadway Street. And that would, definitely stop the traffic on Alexander at that intersection. So that would be the recommended motion to approve the removal of the existing yield sign on Alexander Street, and then replace that with a new stop sign, and authorize the city street department to make those changes. I think there is a bit of a procedural point here, in that this would just be for seeking your approval tonight, but at the next meeting in February, there would be an actual resolution for you to officially sign and make this effective.
Daniel, a question, since there's no stop signs on Broadway there, is there accompanying the stop sign on Alexander, or is there something that indicates that cross traffic does not stop? Or could there be?
There could be, that is a common placard, so that would be easy to add on if necessary. The north leg, there's really only 2 or 3 houses there. But to your point, that could be added on easily.
I mean, sometimes when I see a stop sign and I stop, I assume cars coming into the intersection are going to stop as well. So I'd like to suggest that we add that to the stop sign if the motion is to do that. And I guess I will make that motion that move forward with changing the yield sign to a stop sign on Alexander at the intersection of Broadway and Alexander, and also accompanied by a placard that says cross traffic does not stop.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Shan. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
passes. Okay. Thanks, Daniel. Anything else?
Nope, that's all I had.
Great, thank you. Mr. Wright, looks like you've got a full plate this evening.
Quite a few, kind of an unusual one. So first and foremost, the consideration of the professional service agreement with Milliman for actuarial services. We use them every year to do the actuarial valuation on the 1925 pension fund. We have a handful of police officers that are still in that. So that is part of the CAFR process that we do and is part of the requirements.
Questions for Greg?
I move that we approve that consideration with Millman and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next one on the agenda is the professional services agreement with Crow LLP for the CAFR. They are who we work with to assemble the actual CAFR report. There was an additional scope in there because we changed over to the new accounting system beginning in 2020. So there's a little bit of additional potential fee there, depending on how much time that takes them, but it's not to exceed 52.5. I believe that keeps us in line with where we've been in the past.
Questions for Greg on this one?
I'll move for approval.
Ken?
Second.
Thank you, Jeff. Further discussion? I assume this is for the mayor's signature.
Yes, please.
Yes.
No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes.
Okay, then we have the consideration of resolution 2102 for the Huntington Bank lease line of credit. This is for the vehicles that we intend to purchase for this year. It's up to $1.5 million. There is a max rate built in, 4.25%, but we right now are getting below 2% on any of the ones we've been doing recently. That cap is really more for Huntington's protection if the economy changes swiftly.
Well, we hope that won't happen. Is there a motion on resolution 21-02?
Move for approval.
Jeff?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Rutherford. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
My
And Jeff, Greg, you're doing the walk-on?
Yep, final one is the walk-on that we sent out this morning regarding the workers' comp agreement with JWF Specialty. It's a 3-year agreement. The first year would stay the same as what it has been since the inception of our working with them in 2017. And then after that, it would go up to $11,000 per year for their services. We've had really good experience with JWF. They've helped us keep our workers' comp claims low. They're very good about investigating and then also doing the light duty rather than just having somebody be completely off. So that's worked out very well on our cost there. So we've had 5 years basically at the current rate after 2021's over, and then that would be the first increase in 2022.
And as their other addendums and their 2017 contract have been signed by Deputy Mayor, we want to keep that provision, Greg?
Yeah, I mean,
Mayor or-
either, I think that's probably just who was available to do
Who's
it.
available? Okay. So make this for the mayor or deputy mayor to sign.
Yes, please.
Is there a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg. Have a good evening.
You too.
Mr. Rutherford, looks like this is your spotlight.
I'll move for the approval of the claims.
Second.
Any discussion on those? Seeing none, all in favor, say, motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Ladies and gentlemen, let's stand adjourned at 5:51 PM. Thank you all very much. Amanda, you will get us the message to come in and sign a couple of these things. Is that correct?